For the past couple of weeks, hikers along the Appalachian Trail here in Virginia warned each other about another hiker who had threatened them. This latest encounter with that man turned
On May 10, 2019, 4 hikers were camping along the Appalachian Trail in Virginia's Jefferson and George Washington National Forest. One of the hikers was 43-year-old Ronald Stronghold Sanchez Jr., a U.S. Army veteran. Earlier that evening, the group met 30-year-old James L. Jordan, who was behaving erratically and had approached them on the trail while singing and playing a guitar. Jordan later threatened the campers and said he would burn their tents. After midnight, Jordan returned to their campsite and confronted them with a large knife. 2 hikers escaped and called emergency services, but Jordan caught up with Sanchez and fatally attacked him. He also attacked a woman from the group, but she survived by playing dead and eventually made it to safety. Jordan was arrested hours later near the scene. In 2021, he was found not guilty by reason of insanity and committed to a psychiatric facility for treatment. The event deeply affected the hiking community and the families involved. A family was staying at their mountain cabin when their security camera captured something unusual late at night. On their quiet, isolated property, a figure emerged from the shadows. It appeared to be a woman, standing there, watching their home. The footage left the family unsettled. Why would anyone be out there, dressed like that, on such a remote property in the middle of the night? Nothing else happened, but the encounter was enough. The family chose not to stay there any longer. And to this day, they still don't know who or what was watching them that night. A hiker was walking through a quiet mountain forest when he suddenly began to feel like something was watching him. Uneasy, he started recording, his hands shaking as he scanned the trees. That's when, in the distance, a dark figure could be seen standing completely still, facing directly toward him. The shape looked humanoid, covered entirely in black. Whether it was clothing or something else wasn't clear. Not knowing what he was looking at, the man quickly left the area and fortunately made it out safely. Some believe it could have been a prank or someone lurking deep in the woods. Others think it resembles a Sasquatch, quietly observing from a distance. But with the footage being so unclear, it's impossible to say for sure. One thing is certain though, leaving the area immediately was probably the smartest decision he could have made. While spending a fun night outdoors with friends, this group decided to take time photos using a phone placed inside a mailbox. They stood across the street near a cornfield and took 2 photos back to back. Later, while reviewing the images, they noticed something unsettling. One photo appeared completely normal, but in the second, something could be seen behind one of them, something that hadn't been there just moments earlier. No one noticed anything at the time, and the photos were taken only seconds apart. To make it easier to see, the second image was likely edited using basic brightness and contrast adjustments. The group still isn't sure what was with them that night. Was it something paranormal, or simply an insect or object passing very close to the camera lens? They shared the images online, hoping someone could help explain what they captured. A group of explorers were deep in a remote wooded area when they came across something unusual. Hidden among the trees was a strange opening in the ground. Curious, they decided to go inside. What they found looked almost like an underground facility buried beneath the surface. According to local rumors, the place had once been connected to satanic activity. As they explored deeper, they claimed to find strange symbols covering parts of the walls, along with old writings scattered throughout the tunnels. But as they continued, they came across something even more unsettling, what appeared to be human bones and old shoes left behind, dozens of them, scattered throughout the underground area. No one knows exactly what the place was truly used for, or how those items ended up there. But whatever happened underground, the things they found raised far more questions than answers. A family heard a loud bang outside late at night and stepped out to see what caused it. When they looked up, they noticed a bright light shining from behind the clouds and quickly started recording. The footage itself is short, and no official explanation for the sighting has ever been shared. So what do you think they saw that night? Reddit user Tariq Jonas 90 was on a midnight hike deep inside a remote forest when things started feeling wrong almost immediately. As they moved further through the woods, they kept hearing strange sounds around them and noticing brief movement between the trees.
Bro, look up there. Do you see a pair of eyes all the way down there?
What the fuck is that?
Do you think that could be deer?
I hope.
Oh look, they just disappeared.
Like it looked away, whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah, do you think it's a bear maybe? I don't know, man.
That's my worst nightmare. It's a bear. Being attacked by a bear.
Yeah, that's my nightmare too as well, but I don't think there's bears out here, is there? Right now?
They're all over.
They are?
Yeah.
And that's the light I'm looking for, man. This is the lighting I'm looking for.
If anybody's after us, they're not going to get in front of that. See, they went away. There, they're back again. There they are, staring at us.
Oh my god, what the f***? What is that, bro?
At one point, they claimed they saw a pair of eyes staring back at them from the darkness.
They're looking at us.
It looks high up, too. It looks as high as we are. Those eyes aren't low to the ground.
What the f***, bro? It's just staring at us. You're gonna throw a rock at it?
In a direction. I wonder if it's like a coyote or something. All right.
What is that, bro?
Frag out.
Despite the growing unease, the group continued deeper into the forest, but the feeling only became worse. Eventually, they came across what looked like a small ritual site that appeared recently used. Among the objects left behind was a note with a disturbing message written on it. Some doors never close when latched.
There's like a doll next to it. So make sure there's no one around first. And these look like, though, they've been burning for a while, though.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Look at what we just walked into. Yo.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I heard something come from there.
Yeah.
Like sticks breaking. Look, the wrappers are even still there from the candles. Littering. What the fuck is that, bro? What the hell do we keep hearing over there, man?
According to the group, the entire experience left them feeling watched and increasingly paranoid, as if something was following them through the woods the entire time. If you were deep in a forest at night and stumble across something like that, would you keep going or turn back immediately? A man was relaxing in his bedroom one night when something outside the window caught his attention. He noticed what appeared to be someone standing just beyond the glass. Unnerved, he tried not to make it obvious that he had noticed the figure. Slowly, he reached for his phone and began recording. The moment the camera pointed toward the window, the figure quickly stepped back out of view, as if it had realized it was being filmed. Because of the darkness and the reflections on the glass, it was impossible to clearly make out what had been standing outside. It could have been a person watching him who quickly backed away after noticing the camera, but some viewers argue that the way the figure moved didn't seem entirely normal. Whatever or whoever was outside left the man deeply unsettled, wondering how long it had been there and why. Moments like this are exactly why the so-called Appalachian rules have become so popular online. One of the most well-known says you should always close your curtains after sunset. Whether you believe it or not, experiences like this make it easy to understand why the advice has caught on. A couple decided to take their wedding photos at a cave called the Throat of the Dead. When they later checked the pictures, they noticed something in the background. Someone. When they did some research, they found out that in the 19th century, a man's body was found inside, seated against the wall, fingernails torn, eyes frozen wide. He had died of terror without trying to escape. Legend claims that anyone who speaks a vow of love inside the cave will see him. They called him the Watcher. He never moved, never spoke. He simply waited. Those who noticed him were chosen. Sometimes a witness vanished, sometimes a photographer, sometimes a newlywed. The figure didn't appear in earlier or later frames, only at that moment. The bride and groom didn't know the legend at the time, but a year later, they began having horrific nightmares. Life wasn't the same after that photo. On May 4th, 2017, 23-year-old Madeline Connolly went hiking in Montana's Great Bear Wilderness near Glacier National Park while visiting her uncle. She planned a short hike with her dog, Mogi, but left without food, gear, or a map. Her car was later found at the trailhead with all her supplies still inside. Madeline took a wrong turn and walked deeper into the wilderness, likely confused by the terrain and snow. When night fell, she realized she was lost. A large search began, involving helicopters, ground teams, horses, dogs, and trackers. Bear tracks were even found near her footprints, raising concern for her safety. Madeline survived for 6 days in freezing conditions. She drank stream water and melted snow, and slept under trees, using natural shelter to stay protected. With no food or proper supplies, she managed by moving cautiously and resting when she needed to. On May 10th, searchers found her alive near a creek drainage about 5 miles from her vehicle. She had no serious injuries, and her dog was unharmed. The pair was rescued by a helicopter and taken to safety, where she was reunited with her family. A group of friends were driving at night when they noticed lights in the distance along a quiet road. As they got closer, they saw 3 figures standing still by the roadside, each covered head to toe in white robes. One of them appeared to be holding a flaming torch. The brief encounter left them unsettled. It didn't feel like a prank since it happened in such an isolated area. They were convinced they had come across something they should not have seen. A homeowner living in a secluded house deep in a wooded area checked his outdoor security camera footage after noticing something felt off during the night. That's when he saw this: a faint white figure appearing near the edge of the woods. For a moment it looked almost solid, then it suddenly vanished without any clear movement or direction. Some people think it could be light distortion or camera interference in low visibility conditions. Others believe the shape and movement make it harder to explain so easily. The homeowner believes it wasn't just a camera glitch. He had felt it. In 2007, a student studying abroad in Cameroon took this photo near the entrance of a sacred cave using a disposable camera. During a free day, a professor led the group to a cave in a nearby mountain range, a site locals believe is home to spirits. Local children guided them to the entrance, but tourists were not permitted to go more than a few feet inside. Later, after returning home, the student had the film developed, and that's when they noticed something unsettling. A faint human-like figure appeared between the 2 children in the photo. Strangely, both children seemed to be facing the exact same spot, as if they were looking at it. The photographer wrote, "I'm a skeptic when it comes to ghost photos. They're easy to fake. But this one is different because it's mine. I took it. And this is exactly how it came back from the lab." Whether it was a trick of the light, a camera artifact, or something tied to the cave's legends, the figure has remained unexplained. A person was walking through a wooded area in Mexico when he stumbled upon something completely unexpected. Hidden within the landscape was a large structure carefully shaped to resemble the surrounding terrain. From the outside, it looked like a small mountain, but inside, it was hollow. The interior was supported by heavy wooden frames and filled with neatly stacked wooden blocks. The man later shared an explanation he had been told: that the structure was allegedly a communication center, built in 1978 and later discovered in 1984, possibly linked to secret cult activity. However, there is no verified evidence supporting this claim. No official records confirm its origin, function, or the involvement of any organization. What is certain is this: the structure was intentionally hidden, and its true purpose has never been publicly explained. Two brothers decided to take a drive down Clinton Road in West Milford, New Jersey, a stretch of road known for strange sightings and eerie stories. As they drove through the wooded area, they noticed something moving in the forest. Curious, they slowed down. That's when they saw it clearly. Someone was walking along that remote stretch, wearing what looked like some kind of costume, and waving at them. As the figure got closer, an uneasy feeling set in. Without waiting any longer, they sped off. The figure didn't follow, but the question remained: who was walking along Clinton Road that day? Why did they look like that? And what were their intentions? During a hike through the mountains, this person came across a strange and unsettling sight. At first, it looked like a strange yellow-orange plant growing from the forest floor, but it wasn't a plant at all. It was a tarantula that had been infected by a parasitic fungus known as cordyceps. The fungus invades the spider's body, gradually takes control of it, and eventually forces it to climb to a location where its spores can spread effectively. Once the tarantula dies, the fungus begins to grow through its body, continuing its life cycle. It may look like something straight out of a horror movie, but this is a real phenomenon found in nature. Thankfully, the species of cordyceps that infect spiders are not known to infect humans. While walking through a mountain forest at night, this person noticed something truly terrifying. A pale figure with long dark hair and glowing red eyes stood silently between the trees. It didn't move. It didn't react. It simply stared back. Many people compared the figure to a kuntilanak, a female spirit from Indonesian, Malaysian, and Southeast Asian folklore, often described as the ghost of a woman dressed in white. Others argued it was simply a person in a costume. Since the footage is short and provides very little context, it's impossible to know what was really standing there. But if you looked into the darkness and saw something staring back at you like this, would you stay long enough to find out what it was? A woman was staying home alone one night in the Appalachian Mountains. At least, that's what she thought. While inside her home, something unusual caught her attention above the ceiling. She looked toward the dark opening leading into the attic. At first, it appeared to be nothing more than an empty space. But after looking a little closer, she realized someone or something appeared to be staring down at her. Trying to figure out what she was seeing, she zoomed in with her phone. The camera revealed what looked like the face of a young girl watching her from the darkness. Whether it was an unsettling illusion, an intruder, or something else entirely, one thing is certain. If I had looked up and seen that staring back at me, I'd probably leave the house immediately. In July 1989, a police helicopter searching for two missing hikers in Japan's Daisetsuwan National Park spotted something unusual on the slopes of Mount Asaidake. Lying in a clearing was a massive SOS sign built from 19 enormous birch logs stacked high enough to be clearly seen from the air. The two missing hikers were found alive nearby. But when rescuers asked them about the sign, both men claimed they had never seen it before and definitely hadn't built it. That answer immediately raised new questions. So authorities launched another search of the surrounding area. Not far from the giant SOS sign, police discovered human remains. The bones were sent for analysis, and the first report identified them as belonging to a woman. But that didn't make sense. No women had been reported missing in the area. However, a young solo hiker named Kenji Iwamura had vanished there 5 years earlier back in 1984. Kenji had been staying at a lodge near the mountain. When he failed to return or check out as expected, the lodge owner contacted police. A search was carried out, but nothing was ever found. He had simply disappeared into the mountains. Years later, the remains recovered near the SOS sign were examined a second time, and investigators realized the original identification had been wrong. The bones actually belonged to a male after all. Suddenly, everything pointed back to Kenji. The timeline matched, the location matched, and near the remains, investigators discovered a backpack containing cassette tapes. One tape contained a chilling voice recording. A male voice described being stranded on a cliff and waiting for rescue. He explained that he had seen a helicopter earlier, but that he was trapped somewhere else now, unable to move through thick bamboo grass. He simply asked for someone to come help him. The recording lasted just over 2 minutes. Police later theorized that Kenji had accidentally followed the wrong trail marker, eventually becoming trapped on a cliffside. Investigators believe the helicopter he mentioned was likely part of the original 1984 search passing somewhere nearby without ever spotting him. The theory is that after waiting without rescue, Kenji eventually attempted to climb down himself. At some point, he likely fell. His remains showed injuries consistent with a serious fall from height. But despite all of that, one major mystery still made no sense. The SOS sign. 19 giant birch logs had been dragged and stacked 3 layers high. Investigators found no tools nearby, no axe, no saw, nothing. And based on his injuries, police doubted Kenji could have physically built something that massive alone, especially while stranded and injured in the mountains. Then the case became even stranger. A television journalist searching near the site made another discovery police had somehow missed. Inside a hollow tree trunk, she found Kenji's driver's license, shoes, jewelry, cameras, notebook, and his skull. The items appeared carefully placed there, not scattered by animals, not buried by weather, deliberately arranged. What disturbed investigators most was that these objects had been separated from the backpack and moved into the tree by someone. Someone had apparently found Kenji's remains, handled his belongings, and never reported any of it. Even stranger, when Kenji's parents later listened to the voice recording found in the backpack, they couldn't fully confirm the voice was their son's. To this day, no one knows who built the massive SOS sign, no one knows who arranged the belongings inside the tree, and no one knows whether someone else may have been deep in those mountains with Kenji before he died. A group of friends were camping inside a tunnel when they set up a small fire and sat around talking. As they relaxed, something appeared in the darkness at the far end of the tunnel.
That's not Christian. That ain't Christian.
A figure slowly walked toward them, covered in white-looking substance that made it hard to clearly identify. The footage then cuts off right at that moment before anything else is shown. Now it's likely the scene is staged, possibly with one of the friends acting as the figure for a prank. But if not, it would be a terrifying encounter for sure. A woman named Jacqueline Faye Mathis shared a photo that her son took while hiking with his father through the woods near Baltimore, Maryland. The area is known for its old abandoned forts and historic ruins dating back to the American Revolutionary War and the War of 1812. While exploring one of the overgrown ruins, they stopped beside an old wooden cross and took a photo before continuing their hike. It wasn't until they looked at the picture later that they noticed something strange. A face-like shape appeared to be peeking out from behind the cross near the man's feet. According to the family, no one else was in the area when the photo was taken. And if that's true, then who or what was that? A hiker was walking through the mountains when his flashlight suddenly revealed a pair of glowing eyes hidden in the bushes. As he focused the camera, a mountain lion slowly came into view. Without the reflection from its eyes, the animal was almost impossible to see. Its coat blended perfectly with the surrounding vegetation, making it nearly invisible against the mountainside. Encounters like this are a reminder of just how easily these predators can remain hidden, and how close you can come to one without ever realizing it. A man was driving along a remote mountain road with his dashcam recording when something appeared along the side of the road. There stood a tall, pale, humanoid figure, completely motionless. As the car got closer, its long dark hair and unusually thin proportions became much easier to make out. Strangely, the figure never reacted. It didn't step away. It didn't turn its head. It simply remained standing there as the vehicle passed by. Thankfully, the driver made the smart decision to keep driving. Some people believe it was simply a person standing in the darkness. Personally, I'm not so sure. The figure's appearance doesn't look entirely human to me, and the fact that it never reacted to the approaching vehicle only raises more questions. A father was out on a morning walk in the Appalachian Mountains with his daughter when they came across something unusual deep in the forest. Off the trail stood a large wooden structure built from branches and logs, but it didn't look like any normal shelter. The sticks were stacked and arranged in a strange, deliberate way, almost like it had been carefully constructed for a specific purpose. After later researching similar formations online, they found theories claiming structures like this have sometimes been linked to ritualistic activity or strange gatherings in remote wooded areas. Of course, there's no proof of that, and others believe it could simply be something random built by hikers or people camping in the woods. Still, finding something like that hidden deep in the Appalachian forest, far away from anyone else, would make most people wonder who built it and what it was really used for. A hiker noticed something hiding behind the bushes during a quiet outdoor walk. They grabbed their camera and recorded this. A humanoid-shaped figure can be seen partially obscured by branches, staying unusually still as if trying not to be noticed. The uploader believed it could be a skinwalker, referencing regional folklore tied to shape-shifting entities. Others disagreed, saying it looked more like a person crouching or possibly someone imitating common internet rake-style sightings. But what makes this footage questionable is the lack of information provided. Where was it taken? When? And what happened next? In 2005, a hiker on Silver Star Mountain in southwest Washington took several photos during a hike. While snapping pictures, they noticed a lone figure moving across a wide, snowy slope, an area that seemed too dangerous for anyone to walk. Later, when the images were zoomed in, the figure appeared unusual. Upright, dark, bulky, and taking long strides. There were no visible trails, gear, or other people nearby. Given the harsh conditions, it would have been extremely difficult, almost impossible, for anyone to walk there safely. These images later became known as the Silver Star Bigfoot photos. In late July 2025, Jose Velasquez Turquillos, a 35-year-old man from Camarillo, California, vanished under circumstances that immediately raised concern. He was last seen on July 27th. For several days, no one heard from him. Something those close to him said was highly unusual. By July 30th, he was officially reported missing, and authorities began looking into what had happened. Early in the investigation, another troubling detail emerged. Jose's work van was found abandoned in Thousand Oaks, miles away from where he was last seen. There were no clear signs explaining why it had been left there, and no indication of where Jose had gone afterward. Weeks passed, summer turned to fall. Despite searches and growing concern, there were no confirmed sightings and no answers. Then, on October 3rd, more than 2 months after his disappearance, hikers in the Santa Monica Mountains made a grim discovery. In a remote area near a hiking trail in Los Angeles County, they came across human remains and immediately contacted authorities. The body was identified as Jose Velasquez Turquillos. The location was isolated, far from neighborhoods and not easily visible from the trail, suggesting he had not simply wandered there by accident. Los Angeles County coroner later ruled Jose's death a homicide, determining that he had suffered multiple gunshot wounds. How he ended up in the mountains, who brought him there, and why he was killed remain unanswered questions. As of now, the investigation is ongoing, and authorities have not released details about suspects, or motives. While hiking in the snowy mountains, a group stumbled upon a yogi. They knew it was possible to encounter yogis in this remote area, but seeing one in person was still breathtaking. The man sat in meditation, completely unfazed by the biting cold and the group watching him. Snow had settled on his body, yet he remained perfectly still and focused. Yogis often practice meditation in extreme conditions to train the mind and body, building discipline, resilience, and detachment from physical discomfort. Their goal is to reach deeper states of awareness and inner calm, no matter the environment. But is it safe? A person shared a trail camera photo on Facebook that they captured in Loudoun County, East Tennessee, an area where they said they had already experienced strange things while coyote hunting at night. The image appeared to show a human-like figure standing deep in the forest. According to the person who posted it, the photo was taken back in 2020, but they avoided sharing it for years because they expected people to immediately call it fake. Some viewers believed the figure resembled a Civil War soldier, pointing to what looked like tall boots and old-fashioned clothing. Others thought it was likely just a real person caught in poor lighting or motion blur from the trail camera. Interestingly, the man mentioned that this location was far from any town or trail, which made him question why anyone would even be out there in the middle of the woods. Whatever it was, the person who captured the image claimed the area had always felt unsettling after dark. Brazilian hiker Felipe Castanheira was exploring Mount Washington, part of the Appalachian Mountains in New Hampshire, when a hike through the rugged wilderness suddenly took a dangerous turn. After becoming separated from his hiking partner on the Amonoosuc Ravine Trail, Felipe lost his way and failed to return. When more than 4 hours passed without any sign of him, conservation officers and search and rescue teams launched an urgent overnight search. Rescuers spent hours navigating Mount Washington's steep rocky terrain, but were unable to locate him before nightfall. At first, additional teams joined the search, expanding into remote off-trail areas, ravines, and nearby streams, while drones searched from above. Searchers also had to endure some of the hottest conditions seen on Mount Washington that year, making the already difficult operation even more challenging. Then, after more than 16 hours, Felipe was finally found alive after making his way to a mountain hut. Hungry, exhausted, and dehydrated, he was fortunately otherwise unharmed. After receiving food, water, and a medical evaluation, he declined further treatment and was driven back to his hotel. A man was exploring the Appalachian Mountains alone during the day when he suddenly heard this. He stopped to listen, hoping it was just a familiar animal, but the sound didn't sound familiar at all. It was unlike anything he had heard before. He quickly left the area. Whatever produced a scream that loud probably wasn't something he wanted to get closer to. A person living in the Appalachian Mountains claimed the same unsettling figure appeared outside their home every night. According to them, it never moved. It simply stood outside the window, staring directly into the house. One night she managed to capture it on camera and posted it online, asking for help to identify it. Behind the glowing eyes is a faint, dark silhouette that appears human-like, but it's hard to tell. Maybe it's just an animal seen from a strange angle. What's your take? A group of hikers exploring Vermont's Green Mountain National Forest came across something disturbing near Mount Tabor. While walking through a boggy area in late April, they noticed what looked like an old pair of hiking boots partially buried in the ground. At first it didn't seem unusual, but when they looked closer, they realized human foot bones were still inside the boots. Police were immediately called to the scene. An initial search of the area didn't reveal much else, but days later, investigators returned with a larger search team, including search dogs and U.S. Forest Service personnel. That's when they uncovered additional human remains nearby, along with outdoor gear and personal belongings hidden beneath leaves and soil. Authorities confirmed the remains were human, but so far they have not released the identity of the person or explained how long the remains had been there. Could it have been a tragic hiking accident, someone who got lost or succumbed to the harsh environment unnoticed? Or is there more to the story still waiting to be uncovered deep in those mountains? In 2023, a young couple rented a cabin deep in the Appalachian Mountains of Kentucky for a quiet getaway. While driving along an old mountain road, they suddenly noticed a strange figure standing in the middle of the road ahead. This is what their dash cam captured. The sight caught them completely off guard, and they later said the encounter stayed with them long after they left the mountains. The area has long been surrounded by local legends, including stories of a witch said to have cursed the land centuries ago. According to folklore, she still wanders the old mountains, appearing to those who venture too far into the darkness. Is that what they saw? A woman living in the Appalachian Mountains had been experiencing a series of strange events inside her home. Hoping to document what was happening, she began recording outside her house. While filming, she noticed something unusual in one of the upstairs windows. As she focused her camera, a strange figure slowly peeked out from behind the window, appearing to stare directly at her. It remained there for only a brief moment before quietly disappearing back out of sight. Some viewers believe it was simply another person inside the house, or perhaps someone playing a prank. Others argue the figure looked far too unusual to be explained that easily. Whether it was an ordinary person or something else entirely remains a mystery. But if the strange events she'd been experiencing were real, could whatever was watching her have had something to do with them? In 2017, Alex Hunold completed one of the most extraordinary achievements in climbing history: a free solo ascent of El Capitan in Yosemite National Park. Free soloing means climbing with no ropes, no harness, and no safety equipment of any kind. Hunold scaled the Freerider route, a nearly 2,900-foot vertical granite wall, in just under 4 hours. El Capitan is considered one of the most difficult and technical rock faces in the world, demanding absolute precision, strength, and mental control. His ascent became the first recorded solo climb of El Capitan and is still regarded as one of the greatest athletic feats ever accomplished. A Brazilian traveler named Juliana Marins was hiking on Mount Rinjani, an active volcano in Indonesia, when something went terribly wrong. It was June 2025, and she was on a backpacking trip through Southeast Asia. That day, she was trekking along one of Rinjani's steep and narrow trails, a route known for its beauty, but also its danger. At some point during the hike, Juliana became fatigued and stopped to rest. She was left behind briefly, and that's when everything changed. She slipped and fell hundreds of meters down the mountainside. Other hikers later captured drone footage showing her alive on a steep slope down the trail. But reaching her was another challenge entirely. Rescue teams were deployed immediately. Drones located her position, but thick fog, unstable terrain, and dangerous conditions made it nearly impossible to get to her. Hours turned into days, and then she was no longer in the same spot. It's believed she fell even further down the mountain. After several days of searching, rescuers finally reached her, but by then, it was too late. On August 31st, 2009, two hikers were exploring the snowy Tatra Mountains in Poland when something caught their attention. In the distance, a dark figure could be seen moving across the mountain. As they focused on it, the shape became clearer. It was tall, massive, and walking steadily over the rocky terrain. The figure didn't seem to notice them. The location made it even more unsettling, far from civilization. It was hard to imagine anyone being out there alone. Some believe it could have been a person dressed for the harsh conditions. Others think its size and presence resembled something far more mysterious, like Bigfoot. A woman in Ontario, Canada, was settling in at her cabin for the night when she felt the unmistakable sensation of being watched. She called out and moved around, trying to locate the source. But there was nothing. Then her eyes fell on the glass window where strange marks had appeared.
It looks like a hand.
Impressions of a face and two hands pressed firmly against it. Someone, or something, had been peering in. She searched the surrounding area thoroughly but found no one. Someone had been watching her. This photograph, claimed to show Bigfoot, has been circulating online for years, but no verified source or background information has been found. The figure appears tall, with broad shoulders and a slim, muscular build. Definitely not a bear or any known animal. One striking feature is the arm length. They seem longer than an average human's. The surroundings suggest a forested area, possibly North America, though no location has ever been confirmed. Photos like this are easy to fake, but it still captures people's curiosity. A person was driving through a remote area and came across this scene. Near a Catholic church, they noticed several girls dressed in white standing around what appeared to be a burn pile. Was something dark going on here? What do you think? Reddit user Sav3434 bought an old house somewhere in Appalachia with her husband to fix up and live in. They originally lived there for a few months about 5 years ago, but stopped after experiencing what they described as strange, unexplained, almost paranormal-like events. They kept the property and recently decided to start a full remodel, hoping a newer, updated version of the home would feel less unsettling. The house has two sections, an original log cabin from the 1800s and a newer extension built in the 1990s. They began removing the siding from the older cabin portion, planning to detach it completely. But during the renovation, they reportedly discovered writing carved into one of the original logs. It read, "Demon, be gone." The user asked if the phrase has any specific historical or cultural meaning beyond the literal wording, and what they should do about it. The answer to that was simple: move. While exploring a forest in Indonesia, locals came across something creepy and filmed it. They saw what looked like a person wrapped in white cloth, standing completely still. As they approached, the figure didn't move. Some recognized it immediately: a pocong, an ancient spirit in Indonesian folklore. The pocong is said to be the soul of a deceased person trapped in their burial shroud, often appearing skeletal after decades have passed. But what if it was just a mannequin, meant to scare people? Sadly, the uploader never provided any updates. While exploring a mountain range in Chile on Google Maps, someone noticed an unusual formation that stood out from its surroundings. The terrain appeared strangely symmetrical, resembling a large human face and upper body, like a giant buried beneath the landscape. The area is extremely isolated, with little direct ground access, and not much is known about it. Some viewers suggest it could be evidence of Nephilim, a hidden resting place never discovered by humans. Others propose a simpler explanation: book matching, where two halves of a satellite image accidentally mirror each other. In regions with limited data, overlapping or mirrored scans can create false symmetry and recognizable patterns, which can be seen in the surrounding shapes as well. Whether it's a mapping error or a natural land formation remains unknown, but in remote places like this, secrets could stay forever. A couple was hiking in a remote valley in China when they spotted a figure crouched low on the ground. It stayed still for a moment before quickly moving away from the people filming. The origin of the figure remains unclear. Some locals first linked it to a jiangshi, a figure from Chinese folklore known for stiff movements. Others think it was simply a person. But that doesn't make it any less weird, does it? A hunter was hiding deep in the mountains, waiting quietly for the perfect shot, when something unexpected walked into view. A large bipedal creature moved slowly through the trees. It just kept walking, slowly. This might seem like the clearest Bigfoot footage captured so far, but somehow that only makes everyone even more skeptical. Can Bigfoot really be captured this clearly, or is it just another fake? A homeowner living in a mountain village reviewed footage from his security camera while he was out of town, and saw something terrifying. At first he thought it was just a person walking near his property, but the longer he watched, the more he felt something wasn't right. The figure looked humanoid, yet it lacked any clear facial features and had glowing eyes. He asked a neighbor to keep an eye on the property, but they never saw anyone near the house. He still doesn't know who or what was at his home that night. In the Serra da Mantiqueira, in the interior of Sao Paulo, a local resident named Marcos launched his drone to monitor a small wildfire threatening his property, when something crossed his horizon. At first glance, it could have been a bird of prey, a hawk, or even a Chilean eagle, both common in the area. But frame by frame, the wingspan and the lack of a recognizable flapping pattern raised doubts. According to him, he heard nothing but the wind. No drones, no engines, which seems to rule out ordinary aircraft. Maybe it was just a trick of the eye, but it certainly looks strange and hard to identify. A woman named Frances Dell Apperson left her home in Charlotte, North Carolina in May 2022 with plans to meet family for a hike at Hawksbill Mountain Trail in the Linville Gorge Wilderness. But she never arrived. When Frances didn't show up, her family repeatedly tried calling her cell phone. There was no answer. At first, they assumed she may have changed her plans or gotten delayed along the drive. But as the hours passed, concern quickly began to grow. Days later, authorities discovered her locked silver Hyundai in a parking lot near Linville Falls, not Hawksbill Mountain, where she had originally planned to go. Inside the vehicle, there were no obvious clues explaining where she had gone next. The area surrounding Linville Gorge is known for steep cliffs, dense forest, rough terrain, and rapidly changing weather conditions. Officials were especially concerned because Frances was deaf, meaning she may not have been able to hear rescuers calling for her if she became lost or injured. Massive search efforts followed, using helicopters, drones, search dogs, and ground teams combing through the wilderness. But despite all of it, very little was ever found. Only a scarf believed to belong to Frances, and a small angel figurine matching another left inside her car. Her family still doesn't understand why she ended up near Linville Falls instead of Hawksbill Mountain in the first place. And years later, Frances Apperson's disappearance remains unsolved. This man was walking through the hills outside Medellin, Colombia, when he noticed something unusual in the sky. The footage shows an object drifting slowly overhead. It appears triangular in shape, rotating in a steady, controlled motion. The object seems too large and too high to be a typical commercial drone, and it doesn't move like a plane or helicopter. With no further footage or official explanation, the object remains unidentified. A Reddit user named Damian Qwerty shared a photo that their aunt had taken during a cemetery walk in Virginia around 20 years ago. According to the story, she had gone with a small group to visit an old family cemetery deep in the Appalachian Mountains. The group had hiked there hoping to find old headstones and photograph them for relatives. But once they arrived, the area was so overgrown that most of the graves were nearly impossible to locate. At the time, they took several photos, but nothing unusual was noticed. Only later, after the pictures were developed, did they spot something strange in one of the images. Near a tombstone, a figure appeared standing in the frame. The uploader claimed there were no other people in that part of the cemetery besides their group, and no one remembered seeing anyone standing in the vegetation while the photos were being taken. What made the story even stranger was the aunt later claimed she had used a Ouija board to ask about the figure. According to her, the board responded with the name Teresa Collier, describing the figure as an 8-year-old girl. A man named Mike No Monster shared Ring camera footage from his home showing something unusual captured at around 4 a.m. According to him, the house was completely quiet and everyone was asleep when the motion alert triggered in the backyard. The camera then recorded a dark figure moving slowly through the yard. The shape appeared tall and upright, with what looked like a long veil or habit covering its head and shoulders, resembling a nun-like silhouette. There were no signs of anyone entering the yard, and no follow-up footage showed the figure again. Mike said he had never seen anything like it before or since. How would you react to this? An Australian man named Matthew had travelled with his wife into the mountains near Taiwan's east coast, an area known for its steep cliffs, dense terrain, and dangerous hiking conditions. After an argument between the two, Matthew reportedly wandered alone into a remote hiking area and never returned. Matthew became stranded deep in the rugged terrain, with no food and wearing only sandals on his feet. Unable to find a safe way back down, he eventually took shelter inside a cliffside cave while rescuers searched the area. Days passed with no sign of him, but Matthew still had one thing with him: his saxophone. Hoping someone might hear him, he began playing music out into the mountains. Remarkably, rescuers eventually located him alive after hearing the instrument echoing through the area. After 7 days stranded in the mountains, Matthew walked away without serious injuries. A group of people were driving along a quiet mountain trail at night in India when something unusual appeared ahead of them. At first, it was just a shape in the distance, but as the car moved closer, the figure became clear. Standing on the side of the trail was a humanoid figure dressed entirely in white, resembling someone draped in a sheet. The group reacted immediately, clearly shaken by what they were seeing. Some believe it could have been a prank, but others say the fear in their voices is hard to fake. In September 1981, a 58-year-old Florida woman named Thelma Polly Melton set out on a hike in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park with 2 friends. It was a route she knew well. They were walking in the Deep Creek area on the afternoon of September 25th when something strange happened. At around 4 p.m., Polly began walking ahead of the group. She picked up her pace, went over a small hill, and disappeared out of sight. At first, it didn't seem unusual, but when her friends reached the same spot, she was gone. No sign of where she went. By around 6 p.m., she was officially reported missing. What makes this case so unsettling is where it happened. The trail wasn't some narrow, dangerous path. It was a wide, well-marked gravel road running alongside Deep Creek, a route she had walked many times before. Search teams, dogs, and rangers combed the area, but found no clear trace of her. No footprints leading off trail, no evidence of a fall, nothing. Some believe she may have wandered off and become lost in the dense forest. Others point out how quickly and completely she vanished, in an area that should have been easy to navigate. More than 4 decades later, her disappearance remains unsolved. On December 13th, 2025, Matthew Aldridge, a 26-year-old from Bend, Oregon, attempted to summit Mount Hood with 2 friends. The climb began at the Mount Hood Meadows Resort. As weather conditions rapidly worsened, the others made the decision to turn back, but Matthew chose to continue the ascent alone. When his friends failed to hear from him, they reported him overdue at around 11:30 a.m. that morning. Search and rescue teams immediately launched an operation using aircraft, ground crews, and cell phone location data. The signal pointed to an area near Pea Gravel Ridge, above 8,400 feet, suggesting Matthew may have suffered a fall. Despite extreme conditions, deep snow, strong winds, and limited visibility, rescue teams reached the location but found no sign of him. Repeated attempts to continue the search were forced to stop due to unsafe weather. On December 14th, authorities officially shifted the mission from rescue to recovery, stating the risk to responders had become too great. As of now, no physical trace of Matthew Aldridge has been found. Mount Hood is known for rapidly changing weather, steep terrain, and deadly winter conditions, factors that have complicated searches there in the past. At the time of writing, there have been no further updates, and Matthew's disappearance remains unsolved. A hiker took a break in the woods when he noticed something moving in the distance near a spring. As it got closer, the hiker took out his phone and zoomed in. The footage shows what appeared to be a figure covered in dark fur. From the hiker's perspective, it looked unusually tall, with some estimates placing it between 8 and 9 feet in height. Some people believed it could have been someone in dark clothing. Others thought it closely resembled descriptions often linked to Sasquatch sightings. So, was this just someone in the woods, or did the hiker capture something much harder to explain? The quality of the footage makes it difficult to tell exactly who or what was out there. A person was out for a walk with their dog one night when they noticed something strange in the sky and started recording. A ring-shaped object became visible above them. The structure appeared perfectly circular, with lights lining the outer edge, forming a glowing outline against the night sky. Whatever it was never confirmed. In 1984, this photo of a chairlift in Gwangju, South Korea was taken. It shows two adults seated on a narrow, open lift chair holding a child. What makes the image especially unsettling is the design of the lift itself. While this may seem shocking today, this type of open chairlift was fairly common at the time, especially at scenic parks and recreational areas. By modern safety standards, a lift like this would be considered extremely dangerous, but in the 1980s, it was simply how things were done. Would you dare to ride a chairlift like this? This couple was hiking through a remote mountain area in southern Utah when the woman took a photo of her husband as he photographed the landscape. At first, the image looked ordinary, but later, while reviewing their photos, they noticed something strange. A glowing, unusual shape appeared in the frame. The light hadn't been visible at the location and was only discovered afterward, which left them confused. They shared the image online, asking if anyone had seen something similar and even wondering whether it could have been something far more mysterious. After a closer review, most Reddit users offered a simple explanation: a lens flare. They explained the effect was likely caused by strong sunlight reflecting inside the phone's camera lens, creating the glowing shape seen in the photo. This man was visiting his grandfather in Paphos, Cyprus, staying at a house in a mountainous area with very little activity nearby. Late at night, around 1:30 a.m., he began hearing strange sounds coming from above. The noise lasted between 5 and 10 minutes and echoed through the otherwise quiet area. There were no visible sources nearby, and at the time, the sound felt unsettling and unexplained. After the video was shared online, some viewers suggested unusual theories, including so-called sky trumpets. However, others quickly recognized the sound for what it most likely was. Several people familiar with Islamic and Middle Eastern culture identified the audio as the adhan, the Islamic call to prayer. A group of people were driving along a quiet mountain trail at night in India when something unusual appeared ahead of them. At first, it was just a shape in the distance, but as the car moved closer, the figure became clear. Standing on the side of the trail was a humanoid figure dressed entirely in white, resembling someone draped in a sheet. The group reacted immediately, clearly shaken by what they were seeing. Some believe it could have been a prank, but others say the fear in their voices is hard to fake. A family visited a cemetery to pay their respects to a loved one when they noticed something unusual above a nearby grave. From a distance, it looked like a dark humanoid figure standing silently with its head lowered. They took a photograph, then captured a second image moments later. This time, the figure appeared to be in a different position. Some even claimed it looked as though it had horns, making the second image seem far more unsettling than the first. So, was the strange shape nothing more than shadows and perspective, or did the camera capture something stranger in that cemetery? Now, let's watch some more mountain encounters together.